There have been a lot of characters on Degrassi with mental health issues. We've seen a lot of characters that have been mentally unstable at points, but I don't think there's ever been a character quite like Esme. I have a lot to say about the next class. There are a lot of problems that it suffers from. The writing, I think, mainly because of the limited episodes that it has. With this character, it's always stuck in the back of my mind because Esme's storyline is really unresolved. I want to take a look at everything we have on this character and try to figure her out. So join me as we try to understand probably the most unstable Degrassi character that they've ever written. I don't know if I can say that I like Esme. I really want to like this character because I think there is so much here to make this character multifaceted, but the biggest problem is that the show didn't have time to flesh out the other sides of her that would make her more likable. So we get a character that is half explored. Unlike other characters, we really only get to see the dysfunction with Esme. She seems to be a lot of the time a conflict starter.
The enemy was least.
Isn't this like crazy racially insensitive? In fact, you probably shouldn't be dressed as a geisha. Told you the costume is wrong.
How come everyone jumped down Zoe's throat for playing a geisha, but no one cared that I was playing Japanese? Well, is it because I'm Asian? There's only one kind of Asian? Because I'm sure you know Korean and Japanese aren't the same.
Boom. Roasted.
More than her own character because her stories are wrapped up in the stories of other characters. We never really get too in depth with Esme and her perspective on things. When we do, it's really only on how she views her relationship with other characters on the show, and we don't really get insight as much on everything else about her home life. And when we do get any insight on her behavior, she is usually depicted as the crazy girlfriend, and she is very insecure about losing Zig to Maya. Esme appears to be the very smart, quiet type, which is why no one would suspect that she's a very erratic person. It doesn't seem like she's ever worried too much about her future, as she constantly seeks validation and companionship from those in the present. Esme strikes me as more someone that doesn't know what it's like to have stable relationships or friendships, which is why she's so used to being manipulative and unstable when it comes to Zig and Miles. She also doesn't care that she's manipulative because she'll do whatever it takes to get what she wants from someone, even if it means she has to emotionally manipulate them. We are introduced to Esme through Miles, who's struggling with having his abusive father at home. Esme is listening in on a conversation between Miles and Winston, and already we're starting with the very erratic behavior by her chopping off some of her hair and then telling the teacher that Miles did it.
Miles cut my hair.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Then what are you doing with those scissors?
She heard him say that he didn't want to have a dinner with his family, and she purposely cut her own hair so a stranger, someone that she has no idea about or the whole situation about at all, could get out of his family dinner. This is how this character was introduced, and it's not a good sign of what's to come. So Miles is able to get out of his family dinner, but he breaks into his father's condo with Esme to try to find some proof that he's still fucking around with another woman or doing some other bad thing. When a cleaning person comes in, they hide in the closet, and this is where Esme decides to make out with Miles. It's clear right away that Esme is looking for attention, possibly a distraction from something, to be making out with a person she's barely talked to in a closet at some random apartment. It tells me that this character is used to doing things like this, since she seems unfazed by everything. The next day, she gives Miles some of her medication that she calls happy pills.
Here are my happy pills.
Esme seems to have found the perfect companion in Miles, someone that will do what she wants. Most importantly, Esme seems to have attached herself to Miles because he's someone that can validate her own instability. She looks at Miles and possibly sees herself to a certain extent, someone that is drowning in the pressure of their family situation. From the little that we are given on Esme, it seems like she doesn't have a close relationship with her father, and Miles's relationship with his own mirrors the cold relationship she has with her own father. It makes sense when you think about it, and you think about why Esme attached herself to Miles of all people. She's a troublemaker on multiple occasions, encouraging Miles to take her medication that we can't even be sure that she was prescribed to take as regularly as she does. Throughout the season, we see Esme and Miles hanging out, being assholes to others.
You're not welcome.
Ooh, rollover, so fun.
Golly gee, you're going steady, huh?
Who's your soulmate? We have more of a sibling relationship. Right, bro?
Sure thing, sis.
And admittedly, it's kind of funny in certain scenes, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Loads of people watch our live streams. We have fans.
Really? Are they here? Please, ladies, give him some space.
This scene especially had me laughing so hard.
Let's go, Hunter.
You're distracting me, dude.
It starts to become more dangerous for Miles, who finds out that he and Esme went out on an all-night party binge, and he blacked out and has no memory of it.
I could have died.
But you didn't. Would you rather have spent the night with mommy and daddy?
Obviously not.
It becomes clear that Esme is an enabler for Miles, and this encourages his addictive behaviors. She knows he's not in the best state of mind and has severe anxiety, and uses that as a way to convince him to keep taking more drugs. When he fell and bashed his head and went unconscious, Esme just stood there and didn't even care.
I wonder if I'll remember that.
At the hospital, Miles ends up finding out the amount of drugs he has in his system, and he realizes that he needs to stop. This is where he starts seeing an addiction counselor. Miles knows he has to cut Esme off, and when he does, she's clearly hurt by this decision and tries manipulating him into changing his mind.
I'm an addict.
Is that what some quack told you?
I can't hang out with you anymore.
Because I'm an enabler. I know the psychobabble. You'll come back. And when you do, who knows where I'll be.
This line also tells us a lot about Esme. We know that she's had to have a lot of therapy in her life to understand the term enabler, and we also see how she is somewhat aware of her own behavior, even if she doesn't fully accept it because of the things she's been told in therapy. It's clear she doesn't view therapy very highly, since she immediately dismisses the idea of her being an enabler when she encourages the most self-destructive behaviors in Miles and herself. Instead of cutting her losses, though, Esme takes desperate measures to get Miles back, and I couldn't believe it when I saw this for the first time. So in order to gain Miles' sympathy, she pretends that she attempted to take her own life, walking in the classroom with a bandage wrapped around her wrist, and as soon as she notices Miles looking, she covers her wrist to make him think the worst. It's so manipulative and twisted.
You wanted me out of your life?
You hurt yourself because of me?
I get a bit crazy when I'm alone with my thoughts.
I shouldn't have ditched you.
You wanted to get better. I miss you. Everything was easier when we were together.
He starts to question her on what happened exactly, and this is where he starts to realize that this was all a ploy, and he decides to leave her for good.
Let go of me. Let go.
You faked a suicide
I
attempt?
had to. You were ignoring me. I don't have anyone else. You're the only one who ever let me feel normal. Like there wasn't something that needed to be therapied out of me. Doesn't it feel like everyone wants us to be someone we're not? We should run away.
We'll continue to see Esme do drastic things to keep someone by her side. So enter Zig, perfect target, having just broken up with Maya and vulnerable enough that Esme is able to easily sway him and eventually manipulate him on multiple occasions. Season 2, we see Esme still causing trouble. We also see that she offers Zig a summer job as a dancer after she helps him learn to dance before an audition. After both she and Zoe compete for a role of host at Degrassi's reunion, Zoe gets carried away and kisses Esme really passionately. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like they could have explored more with Esme possibly being bisexual, since she doesn't seem to be put off by Zoe's kiss, and what we see later when she and Zig become a threesome with Frankie, it also doesn't seem like she entirely minds that either. I feel like the show was kind of hinting at it at certain points. Maybe it wasn't too explicit, and we don't really know exactly how Esme felt about being with girls, but it was interesting, and I thought that I should bring it up because I do think that it's something that the writers could have explored with if they were given more time to be able to do it. What I see a lot with this character is that she doesn't really get plot lines dedicated to herself, as she is usually the catalyst for conflict for Zig or Miles or other characters. But Esme has a lot about her that is worth looking into as a character, and the show didn't really get much time to flesh her out. She also seems like a plot device in this way, but we do get enough enough insight on her character where I do think she's more than that, and I do think she creates intrigue. It's just that we don't get to focus on her as much as her relationship with Zig or with Miles. Esme is mildly tame in season 2 as she hasn't really gotten possessive over Zig. We see a lot more of this behavior in season 3. After the bus crash, Tristan is still in a coma, and of course Miles isn't handling this well, and he ends up showing some graphic pictures during class where Esme immediately gets triggered by this. Miles' behavior is natural at this moment. He isn't thinking rationally, and he just wants someone to validate him on the horrible experience he's going through. It's also understandable though that Esme would be triggered since the image probably brings back memories of her mother, which we haven't gotten to specifically at this moment, but her mother did take her own life and Esme was the one to find her. We also learned that she was hospitalized for weeks after that, so of course seeing imagery like that would be triggering for Esme. We do see moments where this genuinely affects Esme, but she tries to pretend that it doesn't. She also blames herself for her mother's death, and her relationship with her father is also very strained, which she also blames herself for. Miles lashes out at Esme in frustration, saying,
Just because everybody leaves you doesn't mean he's leaving me, okay?
and I imagine that this hit home for her because of what happened to her mother and because her father is very distant with her. It's really sad that Esme chooses to attack people in this very personal and cruel way because she is hurt by the world. She acts like she isn't bothered, but she clearly is bothered by a lot of things, and we'll shortly see how she'll eventually get very insecure to the point where she isn't really able to contain that. When Zig is talking to Tiny, Shay, Jonah, and Frankie that Esme went down on him in the parking lot, they all immediately start judging her, which I mean I expect them to do that as teenagers, but Tiny is worried that Esme is becoming a distraction for Zig and he'll fail his senior year. So naturally Zig tells Esme that he needs to make time for his studying. His friends think he's spending too much time with her, and this of course makes Esme uneasy as she starts coming up with solutions to keep his attention. When she sees that he might be slipping away, she says how good at math she is so she can help him with his studies. While they're studying, she looks at his phone and sees the messages that he's been sending Tiny and his friends, and they were talking about her, so she leaves the classroom. Instead of handling the issue in private, she confronts him about the message in the hallway in front of a bunch of other students. This whole altercation is pretty hard to watch.
Jonah, make sure you get her the jumbo Slurpee because she's thirsty. Tiny, are we studying or hanging out with Easy Esme again?
Hey, I didn't write that
Yeah, but
stuff.
you wrote this one. As long as I don't wife her, what's wrong with some extra third base action?
Those were just jokes.
About me.
You're the one who's always doing crazy stuff.
What is your issue?
Sometimes you do things other girls wouldn't do.
Calling me a slut?
Zig tries to calm Esme down, but it doesn't really work. She then, and I'm not kidding with you, starts pulling Winston against his will to hook up with him, and it's hilarious to see him resisting her.
Who's next?
Oh my god, should we put a stop to this?
Should I do it right here? Unconventional, but
No.
I know it's not supposed to be funny, or maybe it is supposed to be funny. I'm not really sure what the writers were intending here. Before they can discuss anything, Mr. Perino interrupts the absurdity. Later on, Esme is still angry with Zig when he tells her he did well on his quiz. This is when she tells Zig about what happened to her mother, and this scene gives us some insight into Esme and her actions, why she's so desperate to keep those close to her, and why she worries so much about the rumors at school.
Did you know I've been in and out of therapy my entire life? Because when I was 10, my mom killed herself and I found her. And maybe I took too long to call 911 or I shook her the wrong way, but after a few weeks in the hospital, she died. Dad still kind of blames me.
Is that why you reacted to those hospital pictures of Tristan?
So that brought me back, yeah.
Look, I know it's not the same thing, but my parents blame me for stuff too.
You're a psycho. And if you cared about her at all, then you'd get out of her life now, forever.
He told me to stop, but of course I didn't listen. I hurt everyone that I care about.
But I'm the reason that he did it. I told him to get out of your life, and he did. It's all my fault.
She's aware that people think she's crazy and she embraces it to a certain extent, but it's also clear that she's insecure about it because she doesn't want to lose people she actually has a connection with.
I don't care what anyone says about me. Your opinion was the only one that mattered.
Of course she would be upset if she saw that Zig was also saying that stuff about her. Esme causes more trouble when Shay gets her period during gym class and makes comments about it.
Does anybody else smell a butcher shop? Whoa, someone's prepared. That's what I always liked about you, Shay. Always willing to go with the flow.
After trying to get revenge on her, Shay embraces the biology of her body and doesn't let Esme's words get to her.
So it's Shark Week already?
That's actually kind of funny.
It's like she can't help being a bitch. Does she want friends? If you thought the character still couldn't help herself, when she sees that Miles got a new job at Lola's Cantina, Esme makes a really unnecessary comment about Tristan.
Oh, and our deepest condolences for our dear friend Tristan. Is he still with us? I figured since you developed a taste for that Argentinian spice.
After the way things ended with Miles, of course, Esme would feel vindicated by making this comment, especially after what Miles said to her a few episodes back. But considering her own mother, you'd think that she wouldn't make comments like this to anybody. It's clear that Esme needs to have the psychological upper hand in any interaction she's in, especially to those that she thinks has betrayed her in some way. Miles should have pulled Zig aside at some point and told him, you might want to get out of this, bro. It's not worth it. Esme is really the queen of troublemaking because she can't help but stir up more conflict with Lola and Shay when she dares Lola to go into the closet for 7 minutes in heaven with Tiny.
You wouldn't have to worry if you were meeting Tiny's needs.
In season 3 of The Next Class, we see Maya's depression at the forefront after the bus crash, and she kisses Zig not really in her right frame of mind, desperate for things to return to the way things were, and Esme catches them kissing and is not pleased with this. Zig clearly backs away right away, and she had to have seen that. I'm sitting there with a smile on my face just because this bitch deserved that after all the shit that she's done this far. Not that I think that Maya should have done it anyway, but Esme bothers me so much that I couldn't help but feel happy in that moment. When Zig and Esme discover Maya has OD'd on the roof, we see how emotional and traumatized Esme is by this.
What do we do?
She's ODing!
Well, should we try to make her throw up?
No, you never do that. I learned that with my mom. We have to put her in prone position and call 911!
She's genuinely worried about Maya in this moment, and I think this event was a trigger for the events that are to follow in season 4. Esme has never really coped with her mother's death, and that's clear from her relationship with her father and her relationship to those around her, that she is destructive. So already not having the best coping skills, finding Maya like this probably brought her right back to that time when she found her mother and that helpless feeling that she already had.
Stop. It's nobody's fault. No one can know what's going on inside someone's head. She didn't want to be here anymore, and now she's getting her wish.
Season 4 picks up not too long after the events of Season 3, and Zig feels especially guilty after not being there for Maya. So he wants to partner with her on an art project, but Esme is not feeling that. As a result, she pairs up with Saad and she makes him paint her nude for class, which is a bad idea for so many reasons. But Esme is clearly not in the right frame of mind. She hasn't been since the start of the show. I don't know if the writers were implying that she had some mental health disorder, and I really hate to diagnose people or characters, but this really feels like borderline personality disorder in some way. She's very self-destructive, her behavior is impulsive, she's very charismatic, which is why she's able to convince Zig to do so many things like having sex on the roof, suggesting to have a threesome with Frankie, her party binge days with Miles. She doesn't really consider the consequences of her actions, meaning she'll make decisions without thinking them through. She has quite a few aggressive behaviors, such as getting physically violent with Zig. She's taking drugs in an unprescribed fashion. We saw that she's willing to do whatever in order to keep her relationship with Miles, and we've already seen the destructive lengths she'll go to keep Zig. She doesn't consider how her actions will affect others, and she doesn't really care about how her actions affect others either. We can see that Esme is incredibly insecure with Maya as she makes this comment to Saad.
Why would I be jealous of a girl who tried to kill herself?
Esme shows the painting to everyone in class and gets Zig and Saad in trouble with their paintings. In detention, Zig says this to Esme.
Why do you always get so crazy?
I'm the crazy one, not Maya, the one who tried to kill herself. She's so selfish.
Of course, Esme responds in a really insensitive way because she doesn't know how to not word things in this type of way. It makes sense why Esme would be bitter towards Maya since she already feels jealous of her relationship with Zig. And because Maya attempted to take her own life, Esme probably sees the situation very close to her mother's, and this brings up feelings of anger towards Maya. She's deeply traumatized by what she had to witness as a child and then having to go through it it again with someone she doesn't really even know. It makes sense why she would see Maya's behavior as selfish. These are the feelings she's probably had towards her own mother and the decision that she made. And I feel like a lot of her anger is projected onto Maya because of that reason, and because she's insecure of Zig's relationship with Maya. Esme sees that Zig blamed himself for what happened with Maya, and in a sick way she wants to comfort him and also bring some comfort to herself for having to find Maya in that state.
She looked the exact same when I found her. I've been having nightmares again. And that would have been on Sod. He was the last person who saw her the night of the play. Opened the door to the roof for her, basically gave her an invitation. If anyone should have done anything, it was him. But he let her get sicker and sicker. He knew there was something wrong.
But he didn't stop her.
Yeah, he did nothing. She might have been totally okay if it wasn't for that guy.
If she can shift the blame onto Sod, then maybe Zig will feel less guilty, and in turn, she can have Zig for herself. If Sod is to blame, then she won't have to confront the real issue, which is the underlying trauma and pain that she's carrying around her mother's death. We see Esme starting conflict again because this is what stirs up shit between Sod and Zig, and just leave Sod alone, okay? He's already been through enough. Esme causes trouble again when she gives a very impressionable Frankie advice on how to deal with Jonah in their breakup, and let's just say it doesn't go well.
What is your problem?
You have to be you!
Esme then uses some interesting logic to defend why she posted the video of Frankie.
Taylor Swift made an entire career off of her exes. You really think she cares what people she went to high school with are saying about her?
Even Shay and Lola are concerned when Frankie is spending all her free time with Esme because obviously they don't trust her. Frankie doesn't listen and continues to hang with Zig and Esme, and what the hell is going on here? Not surprised that Esme responds this way.
Is this an orgy?
It totally is. Want to join in?
When Frankie brings up not hanging out with Esme and Zig anymore, Esme responds like this.
So, you want to stop having fun because of what people think?
Not people, my friends.
Because they're important to you. So important that they couldn't help you through your breakup. That they don't really have time for you anymore.
They have time for me.
Do they? Or would they rather do do-gooder things for the world rather than for you, the person they know and allegedly love?
Esme doesn't care that she's manipulating another person to do what she wants, and she doesn't really consider how these actions will affect her new friend. She thinks keeping Frankie around will ultimately keep things exciting enough for Zig. So that's why she uses Frankie, even when Frankie was being a real friend to her.
Have you ever tried just being their friend? I mean, I'm just saying, you're kind of selective about who you let in.
You're awesome.
Just let them see that.
When Zig doesn't have an impressive college to brag about getting into, he worries that Esme will dump him because he doesn't have anything to offer. When Zig is talking to Frankie about his problem, Esme approaches them, and you immediately see that Zig worries about Esme being insecure. But to his surprise, she's actually pushing for him to get closer to Frankie. In her mind, Frankie is less of a threat than Maya, so she doesn't mind pushing Zig onto Frankie. Later at Frankie's house, Esme brings up the threesome rumor. Zig is more than happy to indulge in this since Esme's on board. Things aren't perfect for long though, because Esme gets defensive when Zig wants to go on his camping trip with his close friends alone.
Why else would they exclude me? They want us to break up. They'd love for him to get back together with mine.
It's going to be awkward because Esme isn't close with them and doesn't have any stories really to look back on. She gets upset when she can't keep up with the conversation, and then she goes to sulk like a little baby in the tent.
I think I'm getting a headache. I'm just gonna go lie down.
Yeah. Cool.
You finally come to your senses. Oh.
When Frankie shows up, she gets this idea to go look for a lake so they can all go skinny dipping, because that will impress Zig. They end up wandering around for a while in the dark, and that's when Esme is more worried about Zig leaving her than being lost in the woods. Frankie is still unwilling to have a threesome, and Esme gets mad at Frankie, saying,
That's why you're in that bikini. You can't say no to a threesome.
Okay, hold on, I'm not doing that.
Then what's the point?
That's all I am then, I'm just
I made you. You were just some pathetic girl moping over a dumb boyfriend, and I made you awesome. Now you won't even do one little thing for me? You're just like everyone else. I give you everything, and you turn on me. Find your own way back.
as she leaves her alone in the woods. There's a clear pattern here. When people don't do what Esme wants, she sees it as a betrayal from their friendship. It's the same as when she and Miles ended things because he wanted to get help for his addiction, and she viewed it as him abandoning her. Esme is very self-absorbed and only worried about her own emotional fulfillment. When Esme gets back to camp, she walks up to the tent where she hears Maya and Zig talking, and this is where she does does one of the most desperate things for attention I've ever seen in my life. I just have to show you this. So yeah, that just happened, and it's unbelievably embarrassing once everyone realizes that she faked an allergy attack. The comedic timing cannot be understated in some of these scenes, and this moment is one of them. The moment where Frankie comes back and all of this is happening, it's fucking hilarious. The next morning, Zig finally calls it off with Esme because he can't take her shit any longer. He eventually breaks away from her and the toxicity that she has. Esme isn't ready to quit though, because if it's one thing that we've seen, she's determined as hell. Prom's around the corner and Esme thinks that she and Zig are still going together. Zig, of course, is still worried for her and texts her to check in on her, and she responds with a picture of herself in a bra. Esme's only response to things like this is seduction. She believes that if she behaves like this, it will make Zig go back to her, but she doesn't seem to be aware that it's her possessiveness and manipulative behavior that drove him away. When you fake an allergy attack in front of all of his closest friends, a sexy picture isn't going to lure him back at this point. Zig blocks her after this, and she shows up at prom like this.
Maybe I should just kill myself, make you all happy.
And she looks really nice, meaning she spent a lot of time for a guy that doesn't even want to be with her anymore. This is what she does in order to get Zig to talk to her. Just another example of her going to desperate lengths to keep somebody. Throughout Esme's entire time on the show, we get glimpses of her home life through what she tells others, but we never see her home life or her interactions with her father. I think Esme's story is very compelling because of how dysfunctional her home life is and the fact that she doesn't seem to have any family members looking out for her. I would have loved to see so much more of this relationship that she has with her father and how this deeply affects her and her relationships with others. I feel like we could have seen another side of her that didn't really involve just her relationships with people at school. I feel like because we don't get to see that other side of Esme, that side at home that she doesn't show anybody else, it makes it difficult to sympathize with her. But she is very compelling of a character, and I just felt like it's a waste not to focus on her. She's only used as really a plot device in most cases, just really used to cause trouble for other characters, but there's absolutely enough here to explore her outside of these other characters. Zig calms her down by getting her to talk in an isolated part of the woods where it leads to a physical altercation where Esme hits Zig until he falls down a cliff and hits his head. For some reason, Zig walked off with Esme alone and none of the teachers were around. Of course, because it's Degrassi, we need to have some big, grand, shocking event that happens at prom, on top of the bomb threat that was called in earlier. Esme leaves after that and shows up at Frankie's house of all people. She starts hatching another plan to get Zig back, and Frankie has no idea what to do. Esme ends up falling asleep, and the next morning she disappears when they go to confront her after learning that she's the one that called in the bomb threat. They also learn that Esme wasn't on the list to graduate because she'd missed an entire month of school. She probably lied about getting into those schools as well. I have no idea. I honestly feel kind of bad because it seems like Frankie could have been Esme's true friend, and it seems like she's concerned for her even when Esme left her in the woods. Esme arrives at graduation with a motorcycle for her and Zig to ride away together, but he clearly isn't going to go with her. She has a huge breakdown in front of everybody in front of the school.
Why do you keep poking holes in my plans? I'm trying to fix us! I've done everything to keep us together. I called it a freaking bomb threat!
Don't stop, you're gonna hurt yourself.
The guidance counselor comes over and talks to her in the most cookie cutter and PSA kind of way.
Esme, let go of me!
Think about what you were doing. It's never too late to ask for help.
I wish I could say that there's a resolution to what happens next for Esme, but this was the last episode of the next class. Since she didn't graduate, I imagine she would have had to repeat the school year, but we didn't get to see any of that. Esme is someone that is emotionally unstable. She's clearly a bitter person, irrational, self-destructive, in need of attention, and sad from the trauma of her past. She's erratic and also self-absorbed, and she doesn't seem to care about what her actions do to other people. She She stirs up conflicts with just about all the main characters at other points in the show. It seems it's in her nature to be confrontational to others, and that could possibly be a defense mechanism to deal with the countless rumors about her. Her relationship with her father shows that she doesn't really seem to trust most people, and the ones she trusts the most are the ones she has the most dysfunctional relationships with. I think there could have been an opportunity for an Esme redemption, some character development. She's someone that's gone through horrible experiences and doesn't have the emotional support from her family that she truly needs. Esme's behaviors and actions can't be justified to any degree, even with everything that she's been through, but her behaviors are explainable, and I do think that she had the chance to be redeemed or to go through some type of rehabilitation of some sort to become a better person. I just think that this character wasn't explored enough to the point that it's kind of criminal. She had a lot more to offer the show, and it sucks that her story ends in a very unsatisfying way. If we had gotten to season 5 of The Next Class, then we could have had time to focus on her home life and possibly getting into therapy for her trauma and issues. It would have been interesting to see a character like this reflecting on her behaviors and possibly learning better coping skills and making real friends. We could have seen a different side to Esme that isn't so vindictive and manipulative, and we could have had the chance to see a resolution to her storyline, and it's pretty unfortunate that we never get to find out how she will turn out. Let me know how you feel about Esme. I'm sure many of you have a lot of thoughts about this character. I'm interested to know. Thanks for watching up until this point, and I'll see you in the next one.